For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliott Apollo's, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Do Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
All right, and welcome into another morning edition of Dude's Hockey Hotline. I am your host, Matt Diegert. And as always, for the ride along with me, my co-host, Beyond716. Brian, how are you this morning?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. How is it over in warm, sunny California this morning?
Well, warm is an interesting word. It's been very cloudy and very rainy this week here, which has been a welcome sight, as you know,
I'm sure,
around the country. But so finally, we've ended that whole everything is flammable kind of moment here, I guess, for a little while. So that's been a good thing. But
good,
you know, it's been a little murky. It's been a little cloudy. It's been a little unpredictable. Kind of like the Buffalo Sabres, and it's kind of like
the Buffalo Sabres, kind of like Buffalo weather, you know.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So first and foremost, I wanted to touch on real quickly. Congratulations from us here at our network, since this is since I don't have a football show tonight. Congratulations to Josh Allen on the MVP. Very good, very well deserved award for him. You know, and I'm going to say it. Screw Ravens fans. I don't care. You know, they want to sit there and basically talk up Lamar all last year for that award that empty award that he won last year, which I don't think it was. I think that he deserved it last year because he didn't have Derrick Henry or anything like that. But you know, and it's the same thing with Josh Allen. Everybody was down on him, saying he had nothing on the team, elevated everybody around him, and won the MVP this year. So take that and shove it.
Yeah. And you know what, Matt? It was a great night for a Buffalo sports fan, right? It was. You know, Buffalo does not always get the absolute spotlight when you win the league MVP of the most popular sport in the country, right? And what Josh said about what's going on in Buffalo in the locker room and things like you have to think, if you were just an outside fan watching it, like, wow, you have a positive look on Buffalo. I mean, what Dion Dawkins said about Josh, I mean, was one of my favorite things of the night. And just, you could see the admiration and just, you know, and it just kind of reinforces like how special on that side of the sports world we have it here with the Bills. So hopefully we can get that with our Sabres too. And, you know, it would be great leading to see that. Yeah, just to see that, I mean, winning also helps too, Matt, but it's not really just about the winning too. There's a lot of other things that make the Bills special too at this moment.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of leaning that into the Sabres and talking about that is I truly don't think that they need, like, we don't have to sit here and need a Stanley Cup in the next 2 years. Like, that's not what we're asking for as Sabres fans. We're literally just asking for any sort of life out of the Buffalo Sabres to show on the ice. You know, and we're going to get into it here in a little bit. And you saw it on what was that, Monday or Tuesday? Tage Thompson gets elbowed to the head or shouldered to the head, and there was zero response on the ice. I mean, let's talk about that for a second. We just had Rob Ray inducted last week into the Sabres Hall of Fame. He's on the ice. If he's on the bench, he's coming off the bench to have a response on the next shift. He might not do it but there's a response on the next shift. There's, the Lindy Ruff of old would have put out Coletta Mayer and Andrew Peters to take care of the, speaking of, brawls and things like that. He would have put those guys on the ice to take advantage, to get into that. We saw that against Ottawa in 2007. There has to be some sort of response to that type of hit, because it very much reminded me of the Drury hit from Chris Neal from that Ottawa brawl, and it truly did, and there was zero response to it. The Sabres haven't. Here's something for you: the Sabres have not made the playoffs since Milan Lucic ran Ryan Miller.
Yep.
there's been no response to this team at all, and that just goes more along the lines of being a soft team. I mean, I don't care if you're Zach Benson to Jordan Greenway. I could care less. Somebody has to, and I know Jordan's not on the ice at this point right now or anything like that, but somebody. I'm just talking height wise. Whether you're 5'9" all the way up to 7 foot tall, somebody has to on the ice take advantage, have a response to that and grow a pair of nuts and go hit somebody in the face because they just hit your guy in the face. And that's what I think. I think that's what I'm most sick of with hockey today. And it's not even just the Buffalo Sabres. It's around the league. Like these guys are getting hit, and and I'm not saying go back to the game that I grew up with because it's never going to go back to there.
Yes.
But when these guys used to police themselves on the ice. Yes, they'd pull you off the ice. Yes, they'd do whatever. But these guys got to start policing each other again on the ice and show, hey, you hit my guy. I don't care if I'm sitting in the box or getting kicked out of the game for whatever. I'm going to make a statement, and you guys are not going to hit one of my guys again, and we're going to show you that we're a tough team to play against.
Absolutely. Now,
go ahead.
Oh, no. I wanted to bring up a comment in the chat because this is interesting and kind of ties into this conversation here from Real Deal Prime. But I just love that avatar. It's great. Always, R.I.P. Rick. I'll never get tired of seeing John Arrett. So the players on the ice didn't see the originally. This is an interesting point, but and I get that. Like what I'm trying to say is maybe originally, yes, but here's the thing, Matt. Like, okay, let's say they originally didn't see it, right? Okay, you go back to your bench, right? Maybe that next shift, there's the response. Maybe it's not always. Like, I'll give you an example. Remember when Chris Drury was hit? Of course, the famous one in 2007.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah, the Ottawa
and then they took the break, and then Lindy sent out. Like, it didn't happen immediately. Now, sometimes it does happen immediately. The other night, Will Cooley smoked Alex Pietrangelo. I don't know if you saw that. And it was an immediate drop of the gloves by the Knights. And Vice are one of the best teams in the league for a reason, right? There's a lot of reasons, right? But that's an interesting point, and I get that. Maybe they didn't see it and all that, but there should have been some response. But I'll say this: there has to be a response the next game. There's got to be something, right? Like,
I mean,
but what's odd? Did you see the next game against Columbus where Gilbert dropped the glove? It's almost like they said, "Hey, let's respond this night for something that happened the game before."
Well, and then I also respect Lindy's point after the game is it was not a response for whatever. It was, and fine, that's fine. You want to come out and say that it's not, not a response for the previous game, but and I want to touch on that comment too. But you know who did see that hit? The guys on the bench. Lindy Ruff.
Yeah.
That's all stuff that has to be taken into account. And I don't care if, like I said, I don't care if you're from Zach Benson all the way to Jordan Greenway. And we got to talk about it too. Is even during that and the only reason I'm bringing up the Ottawa one is because that's probably one of the more recognized ones in Buffalo Sabres history. And Drew Stafford was on the ice, and whether he saw the hit or not, he literally saw he went and attacked Chris Neal right afterwards. They got Drury cleaned up and got him off the ice and everything like that. And if you watch that Beyond Blue and Gold or whatever, and they were talking about the line brawl with Peters, Mayer, and Coletta. Yeah, they literally said Lindy didn't have to tell us to get on the ice. We were already going on the ice. We were already going on the ice. And that's the type of stuff that I want to start to see from this hockey team, because we talk about it all the time. The team in what was it when Teddy Nolan got was here originally. I know I'm going back to the mid 90s. Yeah. But that 94-95 team before the Sabres were good in 96, 97, 97, 98, 98, 99, whatever. That 94-95 team was considered one of the hardest working teams in hockey. Yep. They were standing up for each other. That team had Brad May, Bob Bugner, Rob Ray, everything like that. And it wasn't necessarily like they were taking care of each other on the ice.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter what happened. I mean, I think that was the 94-95 season was the year of one of the Philly line brawl where Gar Snow took the stick into Matthew Barnaby's one
of the greatest moments I've ever seen. It's like smelling salt in front of him, and Barnaby gets up on a dime and starts wailing on Gar Snow.
Yeah,
that's a great YouTube.
It is. I mean, but that's what I'm talking about.
Friends moments. Yeah,
is we need responses out of like I remember that one clear as day. Antosky hits Barnaby from behind, and literally you see May shooting from the blue line, and he comes up over top of the net to hit Antosky and just throws his entire body at him. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not saying go back to that stuff, but there needs to be a response. There needs to be something on the ice at that time, because you're not going to see who was it that they were playing?
Oh, when was this now?
For Tage, just on what?
Monday or Tuesday
night? Yeah,
Devils. Sorry.
I don't expect to see a response the next time they play him. Like, who cares? Like, it needed to happen then and there. It needed, because at that point you're literally just holding on to stuff that should be. These things need to be left in each game. And I think that's one of the Sabres' issues is they carry a lot. They like when a quarterback throws an interception, what do they say? Short memory, right?
Short memory. Yeah, that's true.
Short memory. Let's go back on the field. Short memory, and you see it all the time from Mahomes or Allen or even Lamar when they throw their rare interceptions, they are right back on the field. Let's go. Let's find out what happened and done. Short memory. Let's go.
Yep.
Same thing needs to start happening in hockey.
Even more so, I'm just glancing at our remaining schedule. They do not play the Devils the rest of the season, so there is no opportunity for a response in this moment for Tage. I guess the other thing too is what's important is what that locker room's thinking, right? How they feel towards Tage. After the game, did the players go up to him and say, "Hey, we'll always have your back"? But you're right. There's always these unwritten.
But how empty is that? Right? How empty is that if there's no response?
Yeah, it depends, right? I guess it depends on how Tage feels about it in relation to, but that's got to be held delicately, right? But you see it in other sports, right? I mean, I always remember this one in baseball with the Yankees where, I forget, Bernie Williams was plunked, right? This is a long time ago. Go back, right? Mm-hmm. Next inning, Andy Pettitte comes up, throws on the guy's back, and Bernie Williams goes to center field. He goes like this, right? He's like, "Thank you, you got my back." You know what I mean? Just a little, he's like, "Yeah, I know." He didn't, didn't start a brawl. It didn't start but it's just that little, like, "Hey, I'm not going to let this happen to you." You know what I mean? So,
and if you actually go back and I recommend, I know you're not a Red Sox fan or anything like that, but I would recommend watching. I would recommend watching that on Netflix. It's a great documentary. It's a great little mini series that they have. And Pedro Martinez talks about it all the time. Is he felt like he was that that guy, the enforcer, the guy that. He was the guardian, I think is what he said.
Oh, and he was very aggressive, and he was old school in that respect, so no question about it.
And that's kind of what I want to start to see from this team is, yes, you're 11 points out of a playoff spot or whatever it is at this point. Or because it's 49, 12 points out of a playoff spot right now.
12 points out,
you also have two games in hand, and so let's be serious. Let's say that they are at 55 games because both are 56 games or whatever it is. Yeah. Get those 2 points. Let's call it what it is. They have 53 points, and the other two teams, if they they're only 9 points back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. They need to start showing a response. I'm not saying this team is making the playoffs, but a nice, let's put together, like it says in our header, they've won 4 in a row.
Yep.
Let's go for 5. Let's start put 5 and 6 and 7 together, and it would be nice to see them, like we talked about, maybe not make the playoffs, but let's fight for that. Let's fight towards doing something, because these other teams can't stay hot the whole rest of the year, right? They can't be. I think what was it? Columbus at one time was 10-2-1. The Red Wings are 14-4-1 is a stat I saw recently, and they're right in the top.
Since they hired Todd McLennan, who was a coach I liked at some point for this team. But hey, we'll digress. But
But that's what I'm saying though, is let's start to put one of those type of runs together and see what the Sabres can, because these other teams can't stay fully hot like that for the rest of the year. They're going to start to falter at some point, at least one of those two teams, and who knows? Maybe the end of the year they're fighting for that last playoff spot and potentially can even if they miss out, and this is the type of year where I'd rather them miss out by 1 or 2 points than, just completely fold and be at 78 points.
Yep. Matt, what's frustrating about this team mostly is remember I went to Europe in December. Remember I was away for about 10 days. If you took the whole December off, right? The Sabres after their California trip were 11-9-2, right? After the 13-game winless streak, they're now 10-7-2. Not bad. When you put that together, right? That's not bad. That's a majority of the season. That's actually pretty solid hockey. Yeah. What frustrates me about the 13-game winless streak are those multiple goal games we had leads. If you just give me those W's,
Colorado
give me 3
twice.
or 4, right? You give me 3 or 4, and we're sitting at maybe 57 points where the Islanders are right now. I think most of us would sit back and say, that's probably where we thought this team could be. Yes, going into the season, right around that kind of muck, 57 points, 58 points. And that's the frustrating part. The only thing I want to see, Matt, is just continue to do what we're doing. Consistency, the little things, right? Develop winning culture, winning habits, close games. And maybe our general manager can find something to get a top 6 forward in here before the deadline. And hopefully, that's something that is a big ask at this point. But those are the things that I think realistically, they have 29 games. This team would have to cook 24-5 to make the playoffs. That's asking an absolute a lot to do, right?
That's getting 48 points. Yeah, that's getting 48 points. That's putting up 90 whatever points, and that's. Yeah, that would pretty much have to be what they'd have to do, and
but that's the kind of team I want them to be. Let's imagine if they do. Let's say in 29 games they go, I don't know, 19-10, 19-10-1 or something. That would give us we would technically be a little over 500. It would look just aesthetically, it would look better. And as you're going into next year and you're going into free agency, maybe it could attract some other players to come here and say, hey, you guys are a little closer, and develop those winning habits for these young guys on this team going forward where they, they'll take their next step. The Bensons, the Kuliks, things like that. That's all we can hope for at this point. So I've just kind of simplified it. I don't look at the standings at all in terms of where we are. It's really just about week to week. It's about, the way that they have closed, the Columbus game the other night, the way that they hung on. I know they hung on against the Devils. But the irony of that whole Tage thing is that they gave up a short-handed goal off of that.
On the 5-minute power play. It's
the 5-minute power play, which
you don't respond and you give up a short-handed goal on the 5-minute major. What are we doing here, guys?
And listen, we got the W, which is, I get it. You're playing to win hockey games, right? And this team needs to win. They just need to win. I'm not worried about the draft and in terms of tanking. There's going to be good opportunities to take good players somewhere in the top 10. If they're picking 8, picking 7, you can find those players. So that's where we're at as an organization right now, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and that's the other thing, though, too. Not getting into really trades yet or anything like that, because I know we're going to get into that here. Play a little bit of a game and stuff like that, but as far as that goes, I'd rather, if they're not picking in the top 3, I'd rather see them trade it, package that deal with a protected top 3 pick. If you're not picking in the top 3, get rid of it, because you don't need another 18, 19-year-old player that is going to take 2-3 years to develop. Yep. You don't need that. You're not fine. You don't hit on a Zach Benson all the time. You don't hit on look at this Helena's kid that's starting to look really good.
Yes.
But it's taken him a couple, because he's just getting up to the AHL game. The AHL speed. Then he's going to have to get up to the NHL speed, and then look how long it took Zach Benson to get up to NHL speed. Even still, as good as he is this year, it took him all of last year to kind of really get his game going. He played that grinder type game last year, didn't put up a lot of goals, didn't put up a lot of points, but was starting to put himself in the right position, started to put, and we don't have that time. Kevin Adams doesn't have that time to, sit here and, try and finagle these guys onto this roster. Let's start to, figure out who it's not working with, figure out, what we can acquire for some of these guys, and start, getting some veteran presence on this team, start getting some, start getting some good hockey players on this team, because and even if you have to make a couple of hockey trades, I get it. We talked about it last week, and what's the definition of a hockey trade? But when, on the outside, when you're saying a hockey trade, you're looking to get somebody that's struggling over here and somebody that's struggling over here and kind of swapping it. I get that that's the the crux of the what an actual hockey trade is.
Yes.
But without going too much in depth into it, but I'd like to see something like that, like a Dylan Cousins, maybe going to use him as a piece to get something else, and really do a whether it's a blockbuster hockey trade. Sure, it doesn't have to be, but go get somebody for a Dylan Cousins. Go get somebody for even if it's, I don't know, even if it's Jordan Greenway, or if it's Tage Thompson, or if it's Owen Power, Bowen Byram, Let's make some hockey trades. Let's get some of the guys in here that are going to be more in line with what Lindy Ruff wants to do.
100%. And with the cap going up, that should help other teams to be able to get more creative as well. So there's really those barriers for Adams. I know we do have the no trade clauses and stuff like that. That does make things difficult. We understand that, right? But you're right about the draft pick. I mean, if it's a high pick, I already do have a draft crush, Matt. I mean, I already have somebody that I really want to see on this team. And he's not a center. I know we talk a lot about centers, but Porter Martone, 6'3", 207 pounds. I want you, you're going to like this, okay? If you're trying to win an NHL playoff series, Martone is exactly the kind of player you want. Big, mean, and skilled. Doesn't that sound like what this organization is missing? And you know what else they said? This is the best comment. He's basically a long-lost Kachuk brother. That's the kind of player I want in our system. We don't have that. We have a lot of skilled players, right? We need that big, nasty, hard to play on the puck. Just a feisty guy. I think he would be a fan favorite. I've watched some video of him. If we're picking in the top 2, top 3, I'm picking number 1, I want him. I want him right away. Just put him in the system, and we'll deal with it later. But again, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. We got a long time. But you're right. If it's like a pick 9, pick 10. Something like that, then I think we could ship that out. But we do have other, like you said, we have other prospects we could package. Isaac Rosen is having a great run. Maybe, I like him, but maybe he's a guy we could peel off. Maybe we could peel off. We're going to get into another player there's rumors about pretty soon here. But, there's got to be, there's a will, there's a way. There's got to be interest in some of these players. The Sabres have some very highly rated prospects around the league. It's not just within our fan base, right? There are other fans bases that feel very highly about these players. So it's about Kevin Adams getting, and that's where I think he needs a guy with experience working with him. And I wish he had that because you got to get creative right now. And you've seen other teams do it. Remember that trade with Carolina and Colorado. See how they got a third team involved? Those are the kind of creativity you got to get. Especially there's still teams that are tight against the cap for this year, right? And you still have to weaponize that cap space a little bit now to get what you need going forward.
I'm super surprised that even in years past when that they didn't weaponize some of the salary cap even back then. Take in a pick and you get whatever, and just to put more guys into the system that might be something on, or you get like a second round pick or something like that. I mean, I get it. Not every second round pick is going to turn into Kucherov, but there should have been something done in years past. And now we're sitting here saying, trade these picks. I've been saying trade these picks for the last 2-3 years because when it comes down to it, and you're talking to this team, they truly don't. And we sit here and say Kevin Adams doesn't have the time. Well, clearly he's had the time because he's been here for 5 years and done absolutely nothing. But I get saying that he doesn't have the time because nothing's guaranteed, right? Even he doesn't. If Pegula could have came in 2 years ago and said, "Hey, you missed the playoffs. I'm sick of this. I'm finding somebody else."
Yeah.
I don't expect that to happen because Kevin Adams just seems like nothing more than a yes man, honestly. But I don't want to sit here and make this turn into a Kevin Adams hate thing because we have enough of those shows.
We're gonna have a whole Matt, we're gonna have a whole library in our about 6 months ago.
Just Kevin Adams hate shows.
Yeah. Volume 35.
and like I always say, whether it's on our show on Hockey Hotline or Third and Manageable, I will sit here and eat my crow. I will. Yeah. I will because I'd rather say talk how I feel about things and get those feelings out.
Yeah.
And if something good happens 6 months from now, great. I'm sitting here eating my crow, and I'll admit that I'm wrong because I'm not here to make hot takes or anything like that, but it's just seeing what you see on the ice or on the football field or anything like that, and up until not to go back to football, but up until Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott got here, we were all saying, yo, show us something before. And before we have the trust in it, even the first couple of years with Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, and until Brandon Beane made that Diggs trade, I wasn't a big fan of his because it was like, okay, you're doing a couple of these things, like I don't have the full trust in you. After Sean McDermott got the Bills to the playoffs, my trust was in McDermott. I was not necessarily a trust the process guy. Because who cares? Whatever. That's just a slogan. I get it, but I trusted in Sean McDermott to do whatever he was going to have to do to, make a good football team because he took a team that should have been 5-11 at the time, and they were 9-7 and in the playoffs. Yep. So, and like we say, get to the dance. You never know what's going to happen because everybody's 0-0. So it's what it comes down to for the Sabres, and I trust Lindy Ruff. I really do. I trust him more than I do Kevin Adams. I would if somebody were to get fired, I'd rather it be Kevin Adams than Lindy Ruff because Lindy Ruff has proven to be one of the greatest hockey coaches of all time.
Yeah.
Kevin Adams is a first-time general manager that is nothing more than a yes man who's built a soft team.
Yep. Yeah, Lindy hasn't been perfect since he came back, but I don't really sit here and say Lindy Ruff is the problem with the Sabres right now, right? I think he's done, and I still think we have to give him a little more. It sounds crazy, but when he's not getting the tools from the GM that he completely needs, and when he's not able to hire his assistants like he wasn't able to do, how could we fully judge what Lindy Ruff is doing for the Buffalo Sabres? I still think if this team sticks with him, his ways and his work ethics, things like that, could definitely help some of these young guys like a Kulik, like a Benson, like those guys going forward after he leaves. Maybe they'll look back 3-4 years from now and they'll say, man, Lindy Ruff taught me, and what I learned under Lindy, I've taken forward, to get better. So I still want to give that a little bit of time, but you see, again, you see some other teams around the league, right, Matt? Like the Rangers trade for JT Miller, it feels like they got a shot in the arm. Now Mika Zibanejad's playing better, and it just, and even like Montreal, they make some small moves. They brought in Patrick Laine. We didn't do that. We could have brought in Patrick Laine. Didn't do it, right? Detroit has brought in some veterans, right? And it gave them that shot in the arm. Ottawa's done the same thing. We've seen just the littlest of moves. It's not, you don't always have to get a top player. They're tough to get, right? And like we said, there's been plenty of guys on the waiver wire that were available where they could have picked up a Kaliev. We've been over this many times. Like, just give something, show the team right now that you're willing to try to get better, right? It just brings different blood, different energy into the locker room, and that's what that's what frustrates me more than anything.
Let me ask you a question kind of along those lines now, since we're talking about who could have been brought in or anything like that. We had Chad on a couple of weeks ago, and he said that the Sabres were involved in the Capo Caco sweepstakes.
Yes,
they wanted a certain player. They didn't. They liked two players, one from Buffalo, one from Seattle. They ended up getting Will Borgen, Seattle. He went to Seattle, right?
Yeah, in Seattle. Our former guy, Will Borgen, that we lost in the expansion draft, by the way.
Yep. Yeah. But, I mean, even still, they wanted Will Borgen. I'm going to assume they wanted either Owen Power or Bowen Byram.
Yeah.
Would you have...
Maybe.
Would you have done Owen Power or Bowen Byram for Capo Caco? The way
I'm
that
not
he's
so sure.
Playing?
The way
that he's playing?
Maybe, but the Rangers were still tight. I mean, they had a little more cap room. I just don't know if they would have absorbed Owen Power's contract. But I think they ultimately wanted JT Miller. I think that's who they were really after all along. So I think they were making these moves to kind of,
I get that too.
I think
but
they wanted a
he's
Will Borgen type defenseman more than an Owen Power at this point. But
Kakko was on a RFA deal. I get Owen Power, so the Sabres could have eaten a lot of that money if need be. Like
they could have done some eating on that. Absolutely. Power's just going to be such a hard guy to trade. I mean, even though he's a young guy, and again, they should have used a bridge contract on him. I mean, imagine if he's making 5.5 right now, instead of 8 for 4 or 5 years. That's a tradable guy now. You can then package him. They could have put him even in with a Cousins trade, who we'll get into shortly. Right? There's a lot of things they could have done, but now he's making $8.1 million. That's a lot of dough for 7 years. That I know he's young, and I know he's a former number 1 overall pick, but they're not gonna get the return's not gonna be as strong as it would be if he was on a bridge deal.
Right. No, and I get that, and as much as it's for me, it's a little painstaking, to be honest with you, because look at all the things that they've been involved in or rumored to be involved in the last couple of years, and not be able to get the big one over the finish line. Yeah. That this team clearly needs to, whether it's, I don't want to say fix the roster, but if you add another Capo Caco or a Elias Pettersson or a Jacob Chikrin a couple years ago, or Ehlers, Nicola Ehlers at last year, or Martin, who Andrew Peters thinks that or Craig Rivet, whoever thinks Martin Nikas was one of the ones that said he wouldn't waive the no trade clause.
Yeah.
Any of these guys that are have been rumored to the Sabres.
Mm-hmm.
You get one of those guys in here, and you get that across. Maybe you're not looked at as the guy who couldn't, win the big one, get the big one across the, take that shot across the bow, whatever, And now you've spent up to the cap. Now you've done what you could do to, now you take away that internal cap, whatever. The internal cap rumor that's going on that's going on around that they won't spend that money, that they won't do these things, that they are just sitting on your hands, that's causing the hate towards Kevin Adams and everything like that, and the hate towards Terry Pegula, because as good as the Bills are, I truly think that the issue with the ownership from Terry Pegula is he's a fan of the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
That's like me, well, maybe not myself, because I'd probably try and be a little bit more hands-on in the creation of this team, rather than letting Kevin Adams, do what he has to do to, whatever.
Yep.
But just a normal, like an average fan, like that would be the owner. They'd be like, okay, you do it, and I'm gonna sit back and whatever. But you'd think you'd want somebody a little bit more, hands on. That's gonna be like, hey, like this has been 14 years. I know you've only been here 5 years, but let's do something. Like, let's put your job on the line and say it's got to be playoffs or you're out of a job this year, barring injuries or unforeseen. But if the team you put on the ice cannot get over the hump, sorry, you're out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I mean, now we're getting close to the break, right? And the Bills have kind of died off now. So Terry Pagula doesn't have any more excuses about, okay, the Bills are taking my time. Josh got his MVP. He was there for the ceremony. That's all kind of, we're going to have a little bit of a break now. Now he should be focusing his attention on his hockey team, right? Like, what do we do? Do you want Kevin Adams to be the orchestrator of that next major trade?
Do you trust him?
I don't know.
I don't.
I
don't
not
trust him.
Particularly. I mean, no. I mean, it's just, and again, the Sabres are not operating from strength either. That's the other problem too. They're not. They have some players like we can get into Dylan Cousins, right? Guys making $7 million a year. His contract isn't terrible if you're talking about a top 6 forward, but he's not playing like a top 6 forward. So you're not dealing from strength at this point, right? You're not going to get full return. Like if Dylan Cousins was cooking 30-something goals, 40 assists like he did a couple of years ago and they wanted to trade him, that would be easy. They probably would have had a deal done already. So,
but then you're not trading him if he's at that level.
That's the other thing too, right? But that's true as well. So it's because the problem is the Sabres are looking to add, right? And most teams are still looking to add themselves, right? And we can get into the Dylan Cousins thing. So Kevin Weeks said, and I've been reading this tweet, says, according to his sources, he's been told there's been plenty of expressions of interest from clubs, and that's important. It's not that the Sabres are putting out Cousins. It's that other teams are saying that they want Dylan Cousins. And you have Montreal. Do you think Montreal's going to be in sell mode right now? No. Now the Flames, they're an interesting team. I didn't expect them in the mix, but I'm trying to see where they are in the standings. I think they're fighting for a spot as well, right?
They are. I have them right here. Just give me 1 second. I just got to click on wild card for whatever reason. It clicked off of it. Yeah. They're 2 points out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, so they're probably thinking in terms of we want to add something, right? And then you have the Maple Leafs. We obviously know the Maple Leafs aren't in sell mode now. I know some Sabre fans speculated about Mitch Marner, but the thing is the cap is going up pretty fast. I think Toronto may be changing their. Remember Toronto was so far up against the cap. They're thinking, they got to offload one of their big contracts because they're so tight. But I think they're probably going to be able to keep him long term if they want to. So I don't know if I envision that. Now Detroit, do we really think Detroit is going to be in sell mode? Absolutely not. I mean, that team's won 7 in a row. They're in the wild card spot. So who are we realistically getting with Dylan Cousins to get that top 6 forward? But here's where a savvy GM comes into play, Matt. Let's say these teams want Dylan Cousins, okay? But let's say there's another team out there. We've talked about St. Louis. We've talked about other teams that we could get in a 3-way. Maybe there's somehow we could get another team involved or we get what we want. The other teams get what they want, right? And we can kind of maybe weaponize that cap space that we talked about just this year to help give those teams the breathing room. There's a lot of ways. Again, you got to get real creative, but that's, the $50,000 question. Like, how serious are these inquiries? How serious is Kevin Adams taking them? And
that's the thing we gotta remember too, is especially with what's going on right now with the Sabres is, you're not trading any of these guys for rental. You're not trading Dylan Cousins for a rental player. No. So you take that out of there. So that's already something that you got to make more of a hockey trade with a Dylan Cousins, or you got to add more or take more money on, or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying they're going to take any money from him on, but there's a lot of things that. So you're probably talking more of a Casey Middlestat deal from last year with a Dylan Cousins, where it's almost a 1-for-1. I know everybody didn't like a Bowen Byram last year. He's not playing bad. Like he's probably one of the top couple of defensemen on the Sabres. I think he's better than Owen Power. I think he's better than Matthias Samuelsson.
Full disclosure, Matt, I wasn't a fan of that trade when it happened, but Casey Middlestat is suddenly, I don't know if you've heard, not doing very well with the Avalanche these days. So that trade has not turned out that bad for Adam so far. Right. I must eat a little crow on that. I was not a big fan of it at all. But you mentioned no rental. It depends, though, too. If the guy's 26 years old and he's about to be an unrestricted free agent, can we sign that guy to a – You're right, though. Jen, you're not saying like a 34-year-old – we're not getting a 33-year-old rental guy. We're not getting Patrick Kane for him or anything.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, and that's kind of what I was getting at is you're not trading Dylan Cousins for a rental. You're not trading so you're looking at some of these players that are going to be under 26 years old that are either or if you're looking at more of a veteran guy, you're looking for somebody that's signed 2-3 years so that he kind of like when they traded with when they got Alex Tuch for Jack Eichel. Signed for 5 years at the time and still had contract left and things like that. So you're probably trying to look for somebody similar to an Alex Tuch type contract, or you're looking for somebody with control that even if the contract is up this year, they're an RFA. So
let me ask you a question, Matt. If you were Kevin Adams, and if you had a chance to get an Elias Pettersson, a grade A number 1 center, but I had to tell you have to part with Alex Tuch because his contract is very desirable around the league.
Done.
You would still do it. Okay, so even though he's a Buffalo guy, he loves.
Don't care.
You're still ready. You're willing to move on from Alex Tuch.
It's not the simple fact that it's the player. It's not the person. It's not the player. Like I love Alex Tuch. Love what he's done. Bringing the energy for the Sabres and things like that. But you're trying to build a hockey team. We have to step back and we have to, take that fandom out of it and everything like that. And that's, what sometimes I think that even I catch myself doing. It's like, oh, this guy, you can get him for such and such, or it doesn't work like that sometimes. But when you actually take a step back and you look at it, if it had to be Alex Tuch in a deal to get Elias Pettersson and put a top line center, a top line player on this team, you're gonna do that 9 times out of 10, because you go draft that kid that you were talking about.
Yep,
because you get an Elias Pettersson or somebody like that is going to be a true number 1 center. You're gonna do that every day of the week and twice on Sunday, because you can go into the draft and get the kid that you were talking about that could long lost Kachuk brother, or that's gonna replace anything like that because you got Jordan Greenway coming back too. You can always find guys, maybe not to the level of an Alex Tuch, because I do think that Alex Tuch does serve some sort of purpose. Would I hate the trade? No. Would I like to do it? Would it pain me to do it? Yes. But I'd still do it, because you're talking about injecting a true number 1 center into this team that they desperately need.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the problem. You just look around, like I'm on Puckpedia, and I look around all these teams. There's just not a lot of guys that fit what we're looking for. And, like, for example, we were talking about the Islanders. Remember we were looking at them a little bit and saying, but now Matthew Barzal is hurt. But now the Islanders have come out of nowhere, and now they're back in the playoff race. So are they going to want to add? Are they going to want to make a big change in their organization, right? Are they still going for it? St. Louis is a team that I still think could be a target, and now Vancouver's not going to move off Pettersson now maybe until the summer. So unfortunately, I hate to say it, we're probably not going to get what we want here by the deadline. Let me surprised.
I'm glad you brought up Vancouver, because I really wanted to talk about this real quick. So let's just say the Sabres make up the 2 games here. Because they're at 53. Let's say they win those two games. Now they're 24, 26, and 5.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think Vancouver's record is right now, without looking it up?
think they're a little bit better. Probably have like 57 points, 56, I think.
They're at 61. They're at 61 points. They actually
higher
have.
Than I thought. Okay.
They have the final wild card spot right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why that they do?
Why?
They have 11 loser points, which is the most that's in the NHL right now. Mm-hmm. Now, what I'm trying to get at right now is, let's say that the Sabres, even though they lost those, couple of games over, this is kind of what I wanted to get into. So now, 24, 20, and 11. Let's say that they have the same amount of loser points as the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
How many points is that?
6, right?
Well, no. Hold on. Overall total. 24, 20, and 11.
Oh, 48. That's 60.
It's 59, but...
Oh, close. It's a little, early here.
Where are you in the playoff race then? Where are you in the playoff race then?
2 points out. You're 2 points out.
So you're telling me all these games where that they had multiple goal leads, they couldn't at least get them to overtime?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we talked about earlier in the season, is this team needs to build with those loser points, and that's how they're going to get into the playoffs. They got to take some of these teams to overtime, and whether they win them or not, can you imagine if they had been, take away, they were 10-3 in that 13-game losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to tell you on a 13-game losing streak that they were 4-9, 4-9, but they lost 13 games, but they got 9 points.
Yeah.
And they're now, they're at 59 points and 2 points out of a play. Nobody's talking about that 13-game losing streak like it's anything.
Yeah. I agree.
And that's kind of what we talked about, and you and I saw from the beginning of the year, is that's their path to the playoffs, is get these teams to overtime and potentially and that's fine. The Colorado game, they came back, they did get the one loser point from that game because they did get them to overtime, but the other one where they were up by 4, yeah. They had multiple of those in that 13-game losing streak, and they've had multiple of those throughout the entire year where they've had multiple games. You're telling me they couldn't get 6 loser points out of that?
I know.
And you're now talking. We're not sitting here talking. Kevin Adams can't be a buyer. He's got to be a seller. We're not sitting here talking about how bad Lindy Ruff is and how little of a response they had to the Tage Thompson thing. Well, maybe we're still talking about that because it's a little bit of bullshit that there was no response. But, when it comes down to it, you're talking about a playoff spot. You're talking about that last wild card spot that the Sabres are 2 points out of. And they, no games in hand or anything like that. We're talking even across, that they've played the 56 games or 55 games or whatever it is. I'm sorry. Yep. That's where that they need to live, is they need to be tough enough. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, is when it's not necessarily, you're not going and fighting everybody, and then you're a hard team because you're fighting everybody. I'm talking, Kevin Adams has built a soft team that this team is not able to at least get.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Wow. Hold on 1 second. There's a Dick Geron has passed away at the age of 74. Just rest in peace, old Buffalo Bills coach. Just saw that on
that's
my timeline. So I didn't mean to kind of get off path. That just kind of took me by surprise. So
no,
yeah.
That's okay.
I mean, wasn't a great coach for the Bills, but he was always a good man. He was always a
well, he was a good coach.
Sort of
he was a good coach.
Yeah, he was solid. He had a excellent career in the NFL and all that. So that kind of crossed my thing here. So that was kind of wow, that just kind of surprised me. But anyway, just wanted to, when those kind of things come your way, it's oh wow, I didn't expect to see that this morning.
Didn't expect somber news like that, but I mean, I was like, hey, something came across. I was expecting either a hockey trade or Myles Garrett went to somewhere.
I wish. Anderson is a Sabre, and then we stream for 3 hours. And
yes, and taking the rest of the day off, But in all seriousness, we got a lot more going on with us here, on Hockey Hotline. We're going to be talking trades until the trade deadline. Over the next couple of weeks, with the Four Nations break, whatever you want to call it, their winter break, or over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more news coming out. I think that, I said it last week, I don't think that there's going to be any trades during the 2-week break, but I think there's going to be a lot of news, a lot of rumors coming out because they're still able to talk, they're still able to do things like that. But I think that those trades will be talked about and put in place, and then they'll happen after the Four Nations break. So, but we'll be talking about that. But I wanted to get into what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks. Let's talk about Sabres first. I know we usually do it at the end of the show, but let's talk about the game today tonight against the Predators, 8 p.m. tonight. What do you expect to see in that game tonight?
Well, you want to talk about a team that going into the season had tremendous expectations. Nashville only has 18 wins. They've lost 6 in a row. They're buried in the West, right? I mean, nobody saw this coming, right? When they signed Steven Stamkos, and I think they're last in the league in goals scored this year, if I remember correctly. So, this is the kind of game, you got to get up on this kind of team early and just try to put them away. Right, and I know it's a road game, and Nationals may be due for a win, but Saros hasn't been Saros. Well, he's not going to play tonight. I think you're going to get the backup. But listen, Matt, win 5 in a row going into the Four Nations. I know playoffs are what I think we have a 2. I saw a funny thing. Somebody put up a thing. 2% chance of the Sabres making the playoffs, but a direct hit from a meteor is like a 2.3% chance we have in the next 10 years. So the meteor actually has a better chance of hitting than the Sabres making the playoffs. I thought that was kind of funny, but it's just, it's still a long shot. But again, you get the 51 points. You win 5 in a row. You got the break. You feel a little bit good, about things, and the team gets a little. It's we have the cards in our front of us that we're dealt with, and as Sabre fans, we have to take what's good. We're seeing some good things. And Matt, I know we beat a dead horse in this, but you just see what a guy like Dennis Gilbert has brought to the Sabres, right? As a defenseman, he brings that toughness, that little edge. I mean, those are also the kind of players, like, just some veterans that just understand what it takes to be a pro, just to help some of these young guys through those ropes. Through the times that the games are getting tight in the third period, like, hey, Yuri, it's going to be okay. Hey, and can I just make a strong statement here? I don't think I ever want to see Matthias Samuelsson in a Buffalo Sabre uniform ever again. I'm just I think he needs to change the scenery. It was a terrible sign. I understand why Kevin Adams did it, but that's that risk. He thought that he you know what he did? He did it at Oliver. He did a signing that he speculated he could be. Remember when Brandon Bean made that signing for Oliver? Like, wow, he gave him so much money. But then Brandon Bean kind of speculated what he could be, and it worked out. It didn't work out for this one. So they got to find a way to get him off the books.
And his deal, his deal is actually easier to trade than an old Power or at 4.25 is not too bad.
You could attach a desirable player to that and maybe try to get him out somehow. You got to find the right team for it, but again, that's all about having that savvy GM that can find that option. And they may have to overpay a little bit to do it, but maybe they got to ship a draft pick out to. That's okay, like he said.
Yeah,
we have draft picks galore. I mean, we don't have to worry about that. So I think that's the biggest thing, right? Get into the break, get a W tonight, right? And just go from there, right? We can decompress, take a look at this roster. Maybe there can be trades over this Four Nations. GMs can still do their thing, because I think the deadline is not that soon after when we get back.
March 7th. March 7th.
So a little bit of time.
We'll be doing at least I'll be here doing our trade deadline special. So
I'll be at some point. We'll make that happen, Matt. We'll make that happen.
But no, that's going to be a fun day because I always enjoy, that's like there's two days of Christmas for me a year. Not let's say sports Christmas.
Christmas, yeah.
Not counting the draft, but is NFL free agency open and NHL trade deadline day. Because those are two awesome days within sports because you see what your team is going to do and what they're going to be and what they're setting themselves up for in the NHL for a playoff push and for the future, and in the NFL what they're going to start building their roster with before the draft and what their draft needs, what they feel potentially are their draft needs after free agency and things like that. So, but with that being said, what I want to see tonight is I want to see them go out and win this game against Nashville. Put up some points against Nashville, put up some goals against Nashville, go out and play a tough game, get that 5 in a row going into this break, feel much better about yourselves, because sitting at 51 points is a lot better than sitting at, at 38 points, 39 points. It's a lot better feeling, even though you're 15th in the conference, 51 points, because Ottawa and Detroit both play tonight. Got 2 games in hand on Ottawa. You got 1 game in hand on the Detroit Red Wings. They have 63 and 61 points respectively. If they lose tonight, and you win tonight, you have 2 games in hand on or 1 game in hand on Detroit, and they're the ones that are in that second wild card spot. You have 1 game in hand on them. You win that game, that's the difference, and you're technically 7 points out of that playoff spot behind them, technically. If they lose tonight. But absolutely. With that being said, going into the Four Nations break, I'd like to see not necessarily a trade, because like we talked about last week, we don't expect them to make trades over the 2-week span, because these guys are playing in this tournament that they put together for their country and things like that, and I don't think that they want to deal with distractions for that, but I could definitely see a lot of rumors coming out, so I'd like to see Kevin Adams start getting into some of these trade talks and things like that, and getting some of these, close to the deadline, or close to the finish line. So that when teams do come back after the 2-week break, he could be like, okay, great, let's push that in here. Let's get these new players, or 1 new player or whatever, into the team, into the locker room, so that they can start, building with this team and start pushing towards, 6, 7, 8 in a row. Start building something there. And now, all of a sudden you have 10 wins in a row. Now you're, only a couple points out of really being in contention. Now you're starting to jump other teams. Now you're no longer in 15th or 16th place, whatever the case may be. And now you're starting to push and push and push. That's kind of what I want to see, is I want to see that mentality start to change. And the culture has already started to change a little bit, but they need to continually change continue to change the culture more towards that winning culture. And that's kind of what I want to see over the next couple of weeks. And that includes Kevin Adams, that includes these players, that we got 3 or 4 Buffalo Sabres in the Four Nations thing. So go play with some of these players from your team and learn from these guys. Learn from some of these, if who is it? Sweden, or what team is Finland?
Finland, U.S. and Canada.
Sweden,
right?
Sweden. Yeah. Well, I was talking more for Rasmus Dahlin. Hey, Sweden, go win this tournament, and Rasmus, know how it feels to actually win something, and then come back and start and go from there. But also too, maybe since the guys on your team, maybe talk to them and say, hey, maybe try and push your way out of Vancouver. With Pettersson being
maybe
on the
Dahlin
team.
could say, hey, you should come to Buffalo.
But real quick, I want to go over these rosters. I'm going to go over them team by team, and you tell me who you think is going to win the tournament. Ready?
Okay.
So
ready to go.
Canada, forward Sam Bennett, Cirelli, Crosby, Hagel, Jarvis, Konechny, McKinnon, Marchand, Marner, McDavid, Point, Reinhart, Stone. Defensemen, Makar, Morrissey, Parayko, Petrangelo, Sanheim, Theodore, Tays. Goaltenders, Binnington, Aiden Hill, and Sam Montembeault. How do you feel about Canada's team?
Great forwards, pretty good defense. Interesting goalies, though. Not the depth that you're used to Canada seeing. I mean, obviously they've had the greats, Brodeur and Waugh over the years, and some others, but I love the forwards. I mean, you start with McDavid and McKinnon, you got the two best players. Well, I should say two of the three, because Leon Draisaitl has to be there as well, who should be the Hart Trophy winner this year, but he's not in the Four Nations. But
real quick, Petrangelo, he actually withdrew himself from the tournament. So
okay. I like the team, but I see some question marks there.
Okay. Finland, Aho, the one from Carolina, Joel Armia.
Armia,
is playing for Finland. Barkov, Granlund, Holla, Eric Holla.
Yeah.
From the Devils, Rup Hintz, Capo Caco, Patrick Laine, Lehkonen, Lundell, I can't say his name, the dude from the Panthers, Lusterainen, Rantanen, Teravainen are your forwards, Yoki Haru, Lindell, Mata, Mikola, here's a name, Rasmus Ristolainen,
Rasmus, nice.
And then Valimaki from Utah, Lankinen, and UPL.
Good roster, sneaky good, in some respects. But I do think they're lacking, of course, in terms of Canada. I don't see that sterling goaltender that might be able to keep them in games that maybe they shouldn't be in. So I got them at fourth right now, just from what I can tell. But again, they're capable, but I see some issues there.
All right. So we got Victor Arvidsson for Sweden, Jesper Bratt, Leo Carlson, Eriksson Ek, Forsberg, Kempe, Lindholm, Nylander, Nyquist, Elias Pettersson, Lucas Raymond, Ricard Raquel, and then Mika Zibanejad. And then your defensemen are Rasmus Andersson, Jonas Brodin, Rasmus Dahlin, Matthias Ekholm, Gustav Forsling, Victor Hedman, and Erik Karlsson. And then your goaltenders are Samuel Ersson, Philip Gustafsson, and Linus Ullmark.
I love this roster. I love the mix of good young players. I love the mix of defensive-minded players. Like Eriksson Ek is so underrated. If you haven't watched him, he's a very underrated player. Defense is deep. Again, a lot of interchangeable parts. Goaltending is good, but not incredible. But yes, I really like that roster a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then the final roster is the United States team. This USA. One is Matt Boldy, Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, Jake Guns. I can't. Please say his name.
Gunstel.
Yeah,
I know.
Thank you.
Sometimes I struggle with that one too.
It's Gensel. And I'm a Penguins fan too. On top of that, Jack Hughes, Chris Kreider, Dylan Larkin, Austin Matthews, JT Miller, Brock Nelson, Brady Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk, and Vincent Trocheck. Defense is Faber, Adam Fox, Hannafin, Hughes, McAvoy, Slavin, and Werenski. And then Connor Hellebuck in goal, Jake Ottinger, and Jeremy Swayman.
Wow. Wow. I mean, what a roster. I mean, the forwards are just explosive all over the place. I mean, say what you want about Jack Eichel. He's having by far his best season as a pro. He's cooking this year. He's having borderline a Hart Trophy year. Like a lot of people haven't paid attention. He's playing great. Hellebuck's the best goalie in the league, and it's not close at this point. He's having an amazing season. Defense, Matt, I got to say, I think America's taking this. I really do. I like their roster a lot in this tournament. Sweden could beat them, though. It depends how their goaltending plays, but
so I'll give you the schedule real quick here in a second. But I think it's going to be U.S. I think it's going to be Canada, and then I think it's going to be Sweden and then Finland, obviously last is how I think that it'll shape up. But we have.
I'm going to go USA Sweden. I'm going to flip that on you and go Canada third, just to make our Canadian friends annoyed. Which hey.
Best on Best tournament starts February 12th in Montreal. The first game is Canada versus Sweden, February 12th. Thursday is U.S. versus Finland. Saturday is Finland versus Sweden. And then United States versus Canada. Monday, February 17th is Canada versus Finland, Sweden versus U.S., and then Thursday the 20th is going to be the championship game.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when you read these rosters, I wasn't thinking much about this tournament, but I actually like what they're doing here with this. I think this has a real chance to be something special.
Yeah.
Because no offense to the other countries, but when you're putting, Germany has some good players, right? But when you put them up against, you have Paterka, you have Draisaitl, but what do they have really after that, right? They're not going to really compete against the top four. So you get the best of the best every single night. Any one of those matchups. I mean, Finland. I'm not saying that Finland's a bad roster. They got some really good players on that roster. They're capable of pushing.
Any of these teams are capable of winning this tournament. Like, to be honest with you, goaltender could get hot. They could put Linus Ullmark in, and he could get super hot. Where the other two goaltenders were not playing well, and we'll definitely see how that
Linus
works.
Ullmark, Reinhart, Eichel, all our old Sabres that we should probably still have on this round. Well, listen, I know you want to bring that stuff up again, but yes, this is where we're at.
And that's the thing. Like, the guys are not on the team. I mean, you look down the roster and see how many of these guys were actually on the Sabres, and it's really kind of annoying because it's like, oh, look at how well Tim Murray did and Jason Botterill did, and of drafting and. These guys got traded in some way, shape, or form, or left due to free agency, or didn't want to sign with the Sabres, or whatever the case may be, and it sucks. But I'm looking forward to. So let me ask you this: one of these last few things before we got to get out of here.
Sure.
Would you rather see this every year, or would you rather see the All-Star game?
I'd rather see this.
I'm kind of the same thing because I feel like it's as much as I'd miss the skills competition, you could always have a skills competition because these guys are like the all-star team anyways. Like they're the all-star teams. Like you could do this every year and start it off with a skills competition. You know what
it is about the All-Star game for me, Matt, is like when we were younger, especially when I was a kid. I mean, I'm older, 51, right? The baseball All-Star game was a spectacle because you didn't see some of those players all year. You didn't as being from New York area, I didn't get to see guys from the Dodgers or the Angels or what I mean. And that was the one time you could really see those. Like, wow, like these guys from Minnesota or something like that. You only saw them very little. Same with the NHL, right? In all these games, and I just think the format. Like I like what the NFL's trying to do in that sense. They're trying to get creative and different ways just to showcase the players, and I get it. But this Four Nations, to me, you're getting the best of the best against each other.
You're getting best on best. You're getting best on best, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. You're getting best on best.
And Montreal's going to bring the intensity for the fans. That's a great, say which one in Montreal, they're a great hockey town. The buildings are going to be packed. It's going to be lively.
We sit here and say best on best, but let's be serious. I think Tage Thompson was a snub for the U.S. team.
Agree. But you know what? All things considered, I'm glad he's not going because he could rest now, and then he.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. But I get it. But that speaks to the depth of our forwards, though. It's incredible right now. So. Yeah. It's really great.
I agree, and I mean, let's pay some bills before we get out of here, Brian. So give me 1 second. We're gonna play our bills or play our player sponsors.
For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliot Apollo's, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Dew Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
All right, and we want to thank everybody for tuning in with us today and sticking through this, through our hour-long show, and listening to two fans really ramble on about, the Buffalo Sabres. Yes, we do have a little bit of knowledge, but, we're both kind of more fans at this point than we are anything else. But, at some point, maybe we'll learn, and maybe we'll have... Maybe we'll have, over the next couple of weeks during this Four Nations tournament, maybe we'll have a special guest on that potentially, didn't let you know about that, Brian. Didn't let you know about that yet, Brian.
You're dropping a little surprise on the air. All right,
we'll definitely see. We'll definitely see if we can get him on over the next couple of weeks. But as far as that goes, I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. Sitting here through us and through this season. It's been a trying season, but as many know, the Sabres are hold a near a special place in my heart personally. So with that being said, let's see, we'll keep trying. Oh well. Twitter seems to be having an issue right now, so let's this is good as time as any to end it. It's been Hockey Hotline. Brian?
Good to be seen.
As always, good to be seen.
And go Sabres.
Go Sabres.